Again, my friends, once more, welcome back to the cellar that is Leopard Street. I'm not talking about the turntable in this one. I'll come back to that. What I'm doing in this one is, I can find them. I've got some colour light signals I'm going to put in. Let's go have a look. Stick around. This is Leopard Street. Okay, so signals. Now, I've got a couple of these. Very cheap. Very cheap. They're not that cheap. Hornby semaphore signals. This layout is 1930s period, so semaphore signals are appropriate. Very early colour light signals are coming in. To be honest, I don't know what they look like, but there we go. Now, these Hornby signals have a few things wrong with them. They're about twice the height they should be. Should be closer to about that. Yeah. And they work. They're toy railway signals. They're quite robust. So they're too big, and this is London North Eastern. So what I need is lattice post signals. Now, I got hold of the kit ratio make, and I made one. And it's around somewhere. I won't be making any more, and I won't be getting any more. The kit is ancient. It is horrible. The plastic they use is unbelievably brittle. And if I tried motorizing one of those things, it's going to rip itself apart. So what I need is the metal model signal engineering kits, which I don't have. I don't have the required solders and other bits and pieces to make them. Now I'm gonna get some, not yet. So what I'm doing in the meantime, and this is following on from Trains of Thought, Ian. He's noted on his layout. It's a lovely layout, actually. If you've not seen his videos, you should go and have a look. They're a fantastic layout. He uses cheap colour light signals at the moment. So I picked them up. This is a 2-aspect. These are Eve model. 5-piece model railway, 2 light HO scale, 178 block signal, green over red. Now I want 2-aspect because I'm going to be using a semaphore, which is 2-aspect. Ian's gone 3-aspect because, yeah, you can. Now this was, I think, about 12 quid for 5. The Hornby signal is about 14, 15 quid for 1. So these are pretty cheap. But why? Well, these are useful. I've seen on the JMRI, I've shown that I've got signalling on there. Doesn't exist on the layout. Now, if I'm driving it from the panel, that's fine because I can see the signals. I want some of these on the layout because I don't want to drive trains looking at a computer screen. If I want to do that, I'll just buy a video game. I want to drive them by looking on the layout. So I'm going to get some of these. Now, these are 187, so technically they're too small. Do I have a wagon readily to hand? I do. Just managed to kick a cardboard box as well. So, wagon, signal. These are a little bit small. But I don't care because they're colour light signals. And this, as you can see, it comes with a resistor. Pre-fitted. So the black wire, rather confusingly, the black wire is the positive. Normally it'd be the negative. These are common anode signals. Black wire is positive. And you have 2 negative wires, one red and one green. The red one goes to the red light. I don't know what the green wire does. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to realign you slightly. And look down here. Now this is my turntable controller. I'm not talking about the turntable today. The turntable has had its day. I'm going to do something else for a bit. So if I plug that, I need to find a positive rail where that is actually going to make contact. We'll see, that might work. And then if I touch one of these into the negative, into there, the red light comes on. And if I do the green one, we'll find out what the green wire does. Good grief, the green light comes on. Never would have expected that. Anyway, so that's that. So I need to fit some of these to the layout. Now, that's what I'm doing today. We're going to go into what I need to do with it. Now, the first thing, I don't need that resistor. As they're supplied, these will work directly on 12-volt DC quite easily. You give that positive supply, and you put a switch, and you could just have a single 2-position switch. Flicker switch, red, green light. Hey, light comes on, light, red light, green light. You could connect that to the auxiliary switch on a point motor. So as you're going this way and the point is, it sort of makes sense if the point is like that and you're approaching it from one of its outlet directions, have a signal. If the point is set for you, the light can go green. And that on its own, I mean, that is actually quite useful, because if your point is way off over yonder in the distance, you might not actually be able to see it. So having one of these, even if it's only on one of the tracks, say on the main line, not the siding, you can now see at a distance, I've got a green light, I know this is set for the main line, and round I go. Oh, it's red, must be set for the siding, I can bring this train out the siding. Now I'm going to use these, I'm going to connect this into my block detection system to tell me whether I can proceed. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at installing a couple of these. Now there's a few little changes I need to make to it first, because I don't need this resistor. I'll say this is for wiring up to 12 volts. I'm using a TLC 5947, which is an LED controller that manages the current for me. I'm going to be putting 3 milliamps through these via that, so I don't need the resistor. So I can get rid of that. That will then go to 12 volts, and the red and the green wires will go to the TLC board, which will switch them on, and I can control the brightness. So I need to modify this slightly. What I've got to do is remove that and fit some bootlace ferrule crimps onto these, which are quite small, but they work. I'm going to drill some holes. I'm going to stick a couple of these on the layout. I'm going to have to make a little board to plug, because these wires are not long enough to get to my control panel. I've got two choices. I could solder more wires onto these and give it a bit of heat shrink. Now, while that would work, the problem is I don't actually know how long that wire would need to be. So I'd have to measure it up, then bring it all back to the desk, solder it, pick it back out. So what I'm going to do is put some ferrules on that. I'm going to make a little board that I can put those ferrules into, and I can put some other wires in, and then I can stick it on the layout, and away we go. But that's what we're doing today. So go to the desk, put a couple of little ferrules on these, and it's going to be to the layout, drill a couple of holes, and put them in. To the desk. Yeah, so here we are on the desk. This is the before, which you've just seen, resistor, and this is what I'm going to turn it into with these ferrules on. Actually going to change this slightly. Now what I'm going to do is chop those two off. Reason being, I actually want all the wires to be about the same length on a given signal. What I'm then going to do is I have some connectors here. Now, these are quite small connectors. These can go into a piece of strip board, which is what I'm going to do. So strip board will be like that, and I'm going to have one of them in there like that. It's a bunch of terminals. If I find a screwdriver, I can open one of these up, and we shall just check before I do this that these ferrules actually fit in. Now, you need quite a small screwdriver for these. Now, these are very, very small connectors. So I have these tiny little ferrules. And these are useful because if you're working under a baseboard, the last thing you want to be doing is seeing they fit in. I can tighten that up a little bit. I'm not going to tighten it all the way down now. They fit in. Yeah, they stick out a little bit. It's not ideal. I suppose I could cut the end off, cut it down to size. These are really useful if you're working. My phone is slowly collapsing on me. Do that. These are useful if you're under a baseboard. Basically, you don't end up having to play around with it too much. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to go very gently strip this wire. Just a little bit. There we are. The ends come pre-tinned, so if you want to solder them, they're not hard to do. And now, I can't remember whether I folded those on the others. I might have done. Guess I'll find out in a sec. Now, the ferrules I'm using are these, which are, these are Diddy ones. What are these ones here? And E0308s. I kept that in there so I can keep hold of them. The typical bootlace ferrule kit, you won't find these in. I'm just going to fold that slightly. You won't find them because they're tiny. So that then goes into there. Is that going to go in? Might not now. I've folded it. If I press it down, it'll go in a little bit more. That goes into there, like so. And then crimp tool goes on the end. Get in there. Like that. And that's grip the wire. Now I am going to cut this down to size to about half its length. So if I do that, and I now bring my connector back in, it'll go in. Check it's open enough. It is open enough. It'll go in like that. Basically, I don't have a big lot of the metal exposed, which is the idea there. So I'll do that. I can trim the other end. Get this red wire done as well. I'm just going to strip this slightly, and those of you thinking why aren't using wire cutters? Yeah, you're right. I should be. I don't actually have one. I probably should have, but I don't. Well, I do. They're not. They're quite weird ones. The ones I've got, and they're in the loft, so I can't actually get at them at the moment. They're in the loft, and because they're in the loft, they're probably absolutely filthy as well. So that onto there. And I must say, getting proper. Just check that's loose. Getting proper crimping tools is one of the better decisions I made when I started doing all this. And then that one. So just shorten those. And that is now ready to install. What I need to do is drill a little hole in the board that can go through it. And it's got to be big enough I can put one of these ferrules through, about the same size as the hole in the board, and 2 wires, because I'm going to feed one through, then I'll feed the next, and I'll feed the next. So I need a drill bit that's a little bit bigger than that, which is plastic tube with a bit of heat shrink on it, which is used to stop it pulling them. So I'm going to get the other one of these done. Then we're going to go over to the layout, look at where they're going to go, and I'll drill some holes. So you can see in a minute. Here we are. This is board J. So what I'm going to have is a signal here. This is my advanced starter for the station. Its detection block starts here, so train can come into here. Slow down. Something I can also do is if this signal is on red and this section goes from unoccupied to occupied, I know a train has rolled past the red signal. If it's occupied when that turns red, don't care, because there's a train in there, which is what's triggered it. So I need to think of that. So I'm going to have one there. I'm also going to have one here, which is the outer home for the station. So I need to drill those. So, safety goggles, as always. And need to get the drill. Now I'm using a 4mm drill bit. I think a 3mm would be big enough for the signal hole. However, I need to work out exactly where to put them. Far from the track do I want that to be? Out there. So I'm actually going to put it there. Bonus points, I'm now going to go and turn the drill on. Come down here, flicky the switch. There we go. So, need to going to turn the drill on, and away we go with a couple of holes. So one here. And again, I've made sure there's nothing underneath this. And then I'm going to have one over here, which is going to be about a little bit further up, about there. Something I want to clear underneath it. Go there. That's that. And then one of these should, if I can get this in, I'm going to have to put the wires in one at a time. Now, that one, followed by that one. Persuade them to go through the hole. Go through the hole, that one, and that one. And then that's going to fit there. So in theory, it needs a little bit of padding because this track is slightly inclined. In practice, it'll do. So I'm going to get these glued in. I'm going to get this board lifted up. I'm going to fit it. Catch you in a mo. Right, so what we've got here is a bit of circuit board, which I've cleaned. The connector the lights are going to go to, which is probably going to be the first one I'll put in. And what I'm going to do is that is going to sit somewhere like that. Here I have a 4-pin JST connector, which is going to go there. Now this is going to be under the board, and I want it to be low profile, so I'm using one of these connectors that comes in from the side, and that is going to do the. Oh, it's a 9-way. I thought this was an 8-way. No, it's a 9-way. Yeah, what I need is a 6-way one of these, and I don't have a 6-way. Not sure what I've got 9-way ones for. They must fit something. And I'm also going to have a connector. Don't know if that's going to fit in next to it. We shall find out. Is that going to play ball and fit nicely? Or is that going to complain? No, that fits. That now connects to one of these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run a little bit of wire, so that might actually have to come over to that one. Or failing that, I can just do it with a solder blob this side. I'm going to bridge these two terminals here, so I have basically power, red, green, and the red, greens come onto this connector here. So what I'm going to do is solder that. That's obviously going to fall out, but I'll solder that back in. Oh, the other one's going to fall out as well. Never mind. Right. I'm going to solder this one first because I've jammed it in the holes now, and it will object vehemently if I try and remove it. Somewhere around here, I've got some blue tack. I did have a big lump of it around here. Oh yeah, of course, I nicked a chunk of it for the turntable, didn't I? Yeah, let's have a little look. I'm going to push the boat out and use a fresh bit of blue tack. There you go. That'll do. This is wonderful stuff for this sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is put a blob of that there. I'm just going to blob that into that. I have a bit of solder. Let's get some more solder. Nearly run out. Clean the tip of yon soldering iron. I'm stabbing it into some of that metal shaving stuff. I'm going to get this the right way round. I'm going to retin the tip. Find the solder. Here we go. Retin the tip of this all the way around. Move in a little bit closer so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to put that on there. Retin that like that. And then same with this one. Now I'm only actually going to be using one of these. If I had a single port screw terminal, I'd probably use that. I don't. To be honest, I've never seen one either. Probably because if you try to put the screw in it and tighten it up, all that will happen is the thing will rotate. So, yeah, right, that's that. So then this is going to go in. The back is going to go in next to it, like so. So that can get squidged with a bit of blue tack. Will hold it nicely. I'm gonna have to print a little mounting block for this as well, but I'll come to that in a bit. So I'll get that onto there. It's like so. It's that one. That one. As you can see, my soldering is never the best. You know you've got a reasonable joint there when it goes that lovely shiny colour and just all blobs up nicely over the copper tracking. That's that. Again, back in here. I've not yet got around to somebody to give the idea of trying to sort the wire out on that soldering iron, which I've not quite got round to yet. So that is then, and I do it that way. What I've now got is the wire terminals down here, and I've got power terminals over here, and actually they both connect. I am going to put a little jumper wire in there though. Reason being, I only want to connect one pin of this to 12 volts, and the current that's going to flow through it is pretty minimal, like 4 milliamps. So I'm not too fussed about the level of it I've got here. So I just need to work out the correct spacing on that. Is about there for the wire staple. That can go, squeeze that a bit. That goes in there. And what I'm doing with that is I'm commoning those two screw terminals together quite nicely. So that's that. Solder that, and I'll clip that off. I can put the other connector in. I'm doing this first because it's easier to get at it. And what I'm then going to have to do is mark up the terminals I can use on the other bit. It's that side, and then come down here. That's that side. Yeah, and again, hand out the way. That's that. Come in here with the clippers. I've made a few of these little boards. They knock around on the layout in various places, and it's just an easy way of getting electrical current where you want it. So if I put that there, will it fit in the next one in? Yes, it will fit in the next one in. That's good. So what I'm going to be doing is using that pin and that pin, not that one, not that one, and I've got those 4, so that works. So do that. Yeah, I've made a few of these little boards that they yeah, that is on screen, just checking. Literally for things like this. Where I did the street lights, there's a little board like this that sits underneath it. It's got the street lights plugged into it. It has got the signal box lights plugged into it. Because they are all on fairly narrow pieces of wire. Okay, that's going to solder on nicely. And it just makes life simpler. As I say, when you're working under a circuit, under a layout, to be honest, the last thing you want to be doing is trying to work out, have I got all of that wire into that little terminal hole? So using the little ferrules makes life a lot simpler. That off there. And having one of these boards to connect them into makes life a lot easier. Do that onto that. Connect heat in nicely. It is. So obviously it's the wet solder on the tip of the iron that conducts the heat. Take that blob off the end of there. Yeah. So I'm going to get this done. I'm going to have to 3D print a little mount. I say I'm going to have to. I don't have to. However, I've glued the signals in place. And I'm waiting for the glue to dry. So while I wait for the glue to dry, I might as well do a little 3D print bracket for this. Yeah, let's have a quick check. They're not all perfect. There's solder blobs in the top of that, so I'm going to turn it round. I'll come at it from this side here. in. There we go. I just want to get these connections. I just want them to be good, solid, honest solder joins. Yeah, because once this is stuck under the layout, what I don't want to be doing is having to work on it again. Pretty much ever. Now this one I know is only going to feed these signals, which is why I've gone with this little design. The others I've got are slightly different. Those two to bridge together, that's sorted. In that what I've usually done, and that works, is a slightly different arrangement. Let me just retin that, turn the soldering iron off because I've finished with that. And we'll have a little look. Now what I normally do is I'll create two different versions of this. One that looks like this, which takes individual connectors, and it will then have like a 6-pin or a 9-pin or whatever JST connector on the other side. And the power wires will just plug into that. Just clean this blue tack out of here. And the other, the easiest way of doing this is probably like this, isn't it? There we go, it's got rid of most of it. The other is, there we go, a 3-pin one of these, soldered tracks that way. So if you imagine the tracks running that way, there'll be a 3-pin one of them at one end, and there'll be two of these going down either side. One being 12 volts, one being ground, or both being 12 volts. And it's like, right, that's my powered positive board. I'll then have another little board which does the negative terminals. So I'm going to go measure that up, get that designed and printed. We'll be back in a little bit. By the time that's done, hopefully, the glue will have dried on the signals. I can flip the board over, we can get it fitted, and we can have a look. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so board connected. You may note I mentioned about how I'd have 4 wires coming in here and both signals. Yeah, that's how long those wires are. This is where the other signal is. Didn't reach, so I just made another board. There's a thicker orange wire, which is the supply, and the thinner ones are the returns. So they come all the way around here up to the lighting board, which is wired in. So we're going to find out just how well it works. A quick look around here. 2 signals. So I now need to get this reinstalled and powered up. The first thing that'll do is when I switch it on, I'll get a lighting test, which will tell me if the lights work or not. So I'm going to do that. I'll catch you in a sec when I plug it in. A problem. The new board is refusing to start. That one's working perfectly. Now, I don't think it's anything I've done today, because if I unplug that, that's how I powered the layout up. So obviously that board doesn't fire up. That board fires up. That one hasn't started. This one has. Come down here. See, the flashing blue light is good. This one has refused to start. That one is okay. That one hasn't started. That one has blue light. Blue light. Blue light. The one at the end doesn't have one yet. This one here, the blue light doesn't seem to work, but the board does. So, yeah. And if I plug in, what it's doing, the board boots and it runs. What it's doing is it just goes through the little Wi-Fi loop. So, I suspect this is the house Wi-Fi being difficult again. This is not the first time this has happened. It is wonderfully infuriating. The router is actually due to be replaced. I've got a fiber optic system coming in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be fun. what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to set it to use the same ID and password it currently does. So all of these things can still talk to it. I need that because I'm going to have to upload the new code to it because they're all going to get new addresses, including my MQTT server. So these all need the address of that changing. The JMRI system will get a new address. The Arduino Mega that runs the layout will get a new address. So yeah. So anyway, that's about all I can do at the moment. I'm going to have to try this again later or tomorrow and see if things fire up and what the problem is. Last time, when I've had issues with things not firing up, it's the 5-volt supply. Well, if I come over here, I have plenty of volts. That shouldn't be a problem. My meter is nowhere to hand, but the 5-volt supply all connects via that panel. The boards don't daisy chain on the 5 volts anymore. So basically what's happening here shouldn't be happening. The frustration is the signals are in and the signals look quite nice. I have done something which is quite important to do with this, which is, if I can get a coach on the rails. One of my longest coaches goes past. It's close, but it should be close. If I put that on the rearmost track, again, if I can get it on the rails with holding the camera in one hand. Again, it rolls past, and again, it is pretty close. I'm going to have to run other things around them. Worst case, it's copy-dexed in. Ooh! This is booted. And I saw those two come on. I didn't see those come on though. Right, I'm going to reset this. I'm going to see if it works again. That button there, I believe. Nope. That one. So that's going to reset. They've come on. The far one hasn't. Okay, so that means it's either wired up incorrectly or the LED test routine isn't working. Anyway, right, so I've got one of the signals I know is working. I need to test the other one again. So I'm going to I'm going to go back to the desk. I'm going to modify a bit of code and I'm going to have a little look to see if I can get these working. So, interesting. Well, I've had a little play. The code, this has not been driven as a signal yet. I've gone into MQTT Explorer and told it, turn on, whichever way around these are, lights 2 and 3. So they're on. Now, as you can see, the green is a lot brighter than the red and dominates. Fortunately, my lighting controller, I can change that. I can set that to whatever brightness I like. The other signal isn't functioning. Now, that tells me probably I have a problem. If I had to guess, the problem is on the 12-volt supply to it. It's probably an issue with a crimp, if I'm perfectly honest. So what I'm going to have to do is take this board off again and have a little look at that. But that one working, I'm quite happy with. I thought, I can't see it from this side. Yeah, I can see the reflection of the green though in that Yankee candle. So yeah. Anyway, and obviously, if a train is sitting here, you can see a green light on the end of it as it reflects, which I think looks quite nice. So yeah, I'm going to take this off again. I've got a little bit more work to do, so I will experiment. Okay, quick little wire re-termination later. That one's on, and now that one's on as well. Again, the green is dominating a little bit. I need to turn the brightness on the green down. The red's fine. This is one of the problems with this sort of signal as well, when they have a built-in resistor on the common line, you can have these problems. A good way to fix that is take the resistor off the positive line and put it onto the 2 negative lines. You can put different value resistors on both then, and then you're sorted. So what I now need to do is modify the code so this responds to the two turnouts. Which way around it is. I think that one is J0, this is J1. That doesn't really matter if it's the other way around, I'm going to be changing the code. Then I can control them from within Panel Pro. The next step is then modifying it slightly so that there is a signal, come around here, all the way around here where that is. And what I'll do is I can just put that in as a signal that doesn't do anything for now. But this signal here can look at it and say, well, if the track along here, all the way around this bit here, this inner line here past this tooling, is clear, basically up to where that signal is, there's nothing in there, I can be green. If there is something in there, I can be red. And I can do the same here. I've put that other Hornby signal here. There's going to be one in that little gap at the back as well. These are going to be the color light ones again. But I can put virtual signals there for now. And again, this little one here will tell me, is the track to that bit clear? So I'm going to go modify JMRI. Yeah, we'll have a little look at that and we'll see what we can do. So, to the desk. All right, both signals are now showing a red aspect. So, excuse the slightly wobbly camera work. I'm now going to tell one of them to change to green using JMRI. Has changed, and the one you can more easily see changes to green. Green goes back to red. I've dialed the brightness down on the green a little bit. I think I'm going to have to dial it down a bit more. But that works. I'll just go back to normal zoom. That is controlled on the panel via these two here, so both on green. So that one's on green. And back here to I want to be red. Click that, goes red. And that one goes red, which you can just about see. And click it again, it'll go green, and you can sort of see that a little bit more. I'll do a code thing at some point, but basically this section here is all I've had to modify in my code. So it pretends it's turnout. Turnout number 1 is the far signal, which is currently showing red. And what happens is it comes in here, and I've got, if the turnout is closed, which is what this C does, it says, right, the signal should show green. So I've got here signal Leopard Street 1, Leopard Street 2, turn the red light off, turn the green light on. Green on is a defined value. If I hover over that, you can see it's 2047, which is about half what it should be. I'd need to reduce that again. And I come down here, if the payload is T, so if it starts thrown, turn the red lights on. It's fairly straightforward. At the moment, it is purely manually controlled. I've not done anything else to it yet, so I can do that. I can set this, and they'll come on in whatever state they were in. So at the moment, they're now both showing red. Zoom in a bit, you can sort of see the reflection in the candle of the other one. So yeah, and that's that. So what I've still got to do, and I've run out of time for this video, is set up some more virtual signals and set up the logic. So I'm going to do that in the next video. I will go into how you actually set the logic up for these. And I've sort of covered how you define signals. I mean, I had to redefine these a couple of times. So yeah, a little bit irritating. I'd got I'd numbered them wrong. I had them as J0 and J1. It's been a while since I've set points up, and I forgot I've got to number them all starting 1 because of the way I've written the code. So that's it for this video. I'm not going to be driving trains past them in this one because, to be honest, it's not going to do anything. But I now have a couple of signals. That's the camera stand. I look down here and I can see a red light, and this is my advanced starter. So a shunting train, it'll get its platform signal. So it'll come over here. Say, Scotsman. So the platform ends will be about here, say. So there'll be a signal here. That can go green. It says, right, you are clear to leave. That says the route is set and the route is clear. So she can come tumbling around here like this. Comes round here, and as she gets around here, oh, driver can see there's a red signal up ahead. Stop before that. That signal also is a limit of shunt. So trains, if I decide I want to get the likes of Bucky doing coach shuffling automatically, it should be quite easy actually to set her up once I've got the rest of the block detection set up to say, come out of that road, which is currently empty, down over the points, run down here until you hit the block before that signal, which it'll be on red because it won't have had a button pressed to tell it turn green, which I've not added yet either, which I need to. That, I know you're down there, and I then know you're well clear of the points. That point can reset and the slip can reset, and then she can come all the way back up here until she eventually trips a sensor, which also doesn't exist yet down that bottom end. Right, you're in the bottom. Done. And I'll have to work out another way of sorting things out. But we do have some spare signals. I've got 3 more there. I've actually got another box of them. I bought 10. So yeah, that's it for this video. So color light signals, they're in and they light up, which I'm quite pleased with. A few slight Wi-Fi issues. Not entirely sure exactly what was going on there, but never mind. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one, where hopefully these signals will be operational. And if I get time over the weekend, I've got a few other things I need to get sorted. I'm going to put some more in where that Hornby signal is, which is there. And also, down there's another one, sort of centre of the screen. There'll be 2 more down there, covering the lines approaching Leopard Junction. So we'll see how far I get. Anyway, this has been Leopard Street. I'll catch you in the next one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you very much, and goodbye.